like a lot of kung fu, and it's about when the Chinese came over and settled in like 1850s, like towards the gold rush. I didn't realize, it's not even written in our history books about the Chinese moving over. They had like some 300,000 come over initially, and then it was like 2 million some. Like that's a
Wow.
huge population, and like
To not mention them once.
in our history books, like that was
I feel like the history books were terrible in my day. And that's why sometimes I'll read history now and say, this should have been our textbook. We should have just read nonfiction books. Give the textbooks a break, because all I did was learn about like Chandragupta, and I learned about, I learned about all these different time periods, but I didn't learn enough for it to be interesting. So you were just memorizing dates.
yes,
And
and then you don't hold them.
yeah, and you don't hold the information because you just studied it for a test and you don't care. One thing I do remember is and I distinctly remember reading this because we were allowed like 20 minutes to read in the classroom. And I looked up at everybody because I wanted to see if everyone stopped reading the same spot I stopped reading, where they said, to prevent the people, your enemy, from coming into your territory, you hung the heads, just the severed heads of your enemy on spears as a fence, so that they would know, don't come here.
Wow.
Because if you come here, your head's going on a stick.
Well, wasn't the London Bridge that way too?
Was
Like
it?
they would hang people's. I don't know if it was the heads
Or the whole bodies.
or the whole bodies, like on the entrance to the London Bridge. Punishment.
Yeah.
You know.
So when I think about, do I want to go back? There's a lot of times I don't like.
It's true.
I think I'm very lucky to be born when I'm born in the United States.
I don't think I would want to go forward because I don't want to know what's to come. And that's funny because my whole life I've always been like, I need to plan everything out. I need to time it down to the T. And now I'm like, I don't, because then you have to come back. And then what if you see something like
All you're doing is telling people, oh my God, don't do this.
Yes, and
this
you
is what destroys the future.
Do you have the power to change it? I don't know. But I'm like, I don't want to know. I think I just want to be surprised.
I would like to be surprised because there's so little surprise left in the world. If you want to go to a restaurant, you could look up what the menu is. If you want to go to a place, you can watch on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. You could see somebody else's version of it first. So we lose some of the magic and the spontaneity of having witnessed things and experienced them for ourselves the first time.
Yes. It's actually the decision. That's why I tried not to find out when I was pregnant with twins. I didn't want to know.
Right, because you wanted some magic.
Yeah, well, it started as a bet. I mean, it was kind of like my mother-in-law at the time. She said, there's so few surprises in life. And just the way she said it, I took that as like, okay, game on. I can do this. And what it actually taught me was, I think from that, I did mystery dates with the kids because I wanted them to see there's like mystery and beauty and awe in the world right around us. Like we had this stream in our backyard, and we'd built a little bridge, and they had little buckets, and we'd go on treasure hunts. And so they're actively looking in the forest to see what they could find. We found purple mushrooms and red mushrooms and newts and salamanders and all, as a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, those things are fascinating. And so I like
and
that.
Seeing them through a child's eyes is also fascinating because you remember what wonder is.
Yes.
When you relive it through a child.
Yeah, and how do we lose that excitement as a kid?
We have bills.
Such a grumpy old people.
Obligations and bills and all kinds of nonsense and kind of. I also think
responsibility.
Science, for all of its amazing attributes and bringing us forward through evolution and all of this other stuff, it eliminated some of the mystery. But in reality, even though we know so much more than we know, we still don't know enough.
Yes.
But because we have science, we think we know everything.
Yes. That's true. And I also think that, we talked about that the other day, convenience, looking up stuff. We take the fun out of our own life for convenience. So, I mean, it's, what was that quote I said? Something about a tool when used wrongly as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to go back and find it. But it's true. Like, there's always a good and bad to everything. There's a good side and a bad side to how we use stuff in moderation.
I think so. We've been watching a couple of things. So we're not watching a ton of television, but what we are watching, because I'm trying not to get sucked into a new series, because I'm not going to lose 3 weeks. Right? I want 2 hours. So we did get sucked into a series that I thought was a 2-hour movie, and it was about putting the man on the moon. And that was such an interesting time to the race for space. And it was interesting to watch the series. And I know a little bit about it. I've read a couple of books about it.
Do you remember the name of it?
So the book
'Cause we
was
just watched-
Moonfire, and maybe the series was A Man on the Moon.
I know that there was a rush. I thought it was. Oh, no, I don't know. I don't know enough to know. There was a rush, and we were trying to beat the Russians to put the. I don't remember what that was. If anybody knows, they can call in or comment. Save us.
Well, my mother worked as a typist, and she could type whatever 98 words a minute without a mistake or whatever it is. It was almost 100. And after that, she would make a typo. And so she got hired by MIT to work on their piece of the software data entry for putting the man on the moon. And when
Wow.
I was little, I used to love looking through photograph books, and I used to make my mother tell me, where was I, what was going on, who's this? I used to love the stories that came around photographs. And she had this 9 by 12 manila envelope, and it had these really wonderful quality pictures of the Earth from the moon.
Wow.
And I mean, we see that all the time with movies and pictures now, but I had never seen that at 6.
Well, 6 years old, and to see a picture of the moon,
Earth.
the Earth, like wow.
From the moon. And it was photographic, it was a photograph. And I was like, what is this? And she really dismissed that. She didn't want to talk about it. So it was my father who told me the stories. And that's when I learned my mother's IQ. That's when I learned that my mother had the opportunity to she did something really interesting. And she dismissed it, well, I wasn't the people putting the man on the moon. And it was like, you did the data entry, but you got to live in the room while it was happening.
Right.
To me, even being amongst that,
Part of it
was amazing. And I don't know if she downplayed it, because then she would have to talk about, now I'm here doing electrolysis, raising you and wiping your snotty face. And maybe it was like, that's why it's so disappointing to be a parent for her. Maybe that was it. I could have been doing, aerospace stuff. Instead, I'm here wiping a snot off a kid's face and making toast that's too dark. Or
butter knife, scrape it in the sink.
right. So that time period was always fascinating. So I've read a few things about it, and there was so much to that story, and it's really impressive. And then we watched Oppenheimer,
Yes.
which we haven't finished. But I had read Area 51 by Annie Jacobson. I am always talking about this book, and it touches lightly on him as the father of the atomic bomb. But what I'm always fascinated by is, when you're reading it, you're like, how could this happen? But we weren't there at the time with all of the stresses they had at the time. So
Right.
we look back on the maker of the atomic bomb, and we think, well, what is it? You are death.
Yes.
You are death, right? And it's like, but at the time, they were trying to stop the Germans from controlling the world.
Right.
The Germans' manifesto was, at that time, genocide for everybody who wasn't them.
Yeah, and you think about how far.
And I know that technically it was the Jews that they were genociding, but they actually genocided a lot of other people besides the Jews.
But I was thinking about the South Pacific too. Like, look at when we were at war, how much land mass was in the middle of war.
Yes.
I mean, you think about it, and you think about it's, Germany, Austria, it's all of these, but it was down in the South Pacific,
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Japan, all of these places.
And when people talk about, are we in World War III now? It's like, well, is enough of it? Because I don't know. I watched some program and they asked, are we in World War III now? And it's like, well, we have a lot of unrest, and we have a lot of wars going on. At what point do people take a side? And now it becomes, and every war is us versus them. right? What side are you on?
Right.
Us versus them. And I don't know, it's a very difficult time with a lot of unrest. And how do you go about being happy in your life when you know so much tragedy is going on in the world? When you ask me,
Turn
when,
the news off.
right, turn off the news. If you can do something, do something. If you can't do something,
Right.
do what you can do. I think that's another one. I was looking for seeds because I bought seeds online and they came unmarked, so I don't trust that they're the seeds that I want. So I started going searching for seeds in the store, and I found these little egg cartons of wildflowers, and it says enough, and then it was like for the bees is what it said.
Oh.
And it said enough to give your friends and to share with people. So I bought some egg cartons for my nephews so they can do their thing. I bought one for my friend. I bought one for
that's
myself.
cool.
And I thought, we're so worried about climate change. What can you do? You can do something in your yard. You can plant pollinating plants for and marvel at the bees and the butterflies and the hummingbirds and the birds that you feed. And when you feed birds, all the other animals come too. And I just thought to try to figure out what's happening in the world with 7 or 8 billion people I can't even think of it. It's overwhelming. I can't solve the problems of myself for the day. I couldn't get Facebook up. I can't get my Bluetooth to work. I can't be fixing this, but I can do something that I can do here now.
But I feel like it's a butterfly effect. Like if we all make an intent to put good out into the world in our own plot of land or our own little space, our own little circle, our own little town. And if we start operating on that vibration, like how can we help other people or just be nice instead of like,
that's where community comes in. Community comes in. We think we have this online community, but remove that because that's, and yes, there is a truth to an online community. I follow people that don't know who I am, but they've made an impact on my life.
Yes.
So it's a real thing, but what has more long-lasting mental health benefits is to have a community close to you.
Yes.
That you're a part of, that you see with your own eyes, not through a screen, that you could reach out and touch. I remember I was at the supermarket, and I know this one person in the supermarket. I talk to them every time I go in, and they had said they lost their cat, and I was like, oh no, because I have a pet, and I know how devastating it is to lose a pet, and I was like, oh, there's nothing I can say. But he goes, no, but a hug would work.
Oh,
and I gave him a hug, and it's like, yeah, sometimes you just need a hug.
Yeah. I literally, I think we're all going for love. We're all going to be seen, to be heard. I think that's our purpose, whether and it comes out in a million different ways. And so I'm like, if we just start so I was listening on my way here this morning. I was reading. I had started an audio a while back called Epic Life, and it's actually a good book, but I'm like, I'm not really into that right now. I want to, Good Vibes, Good Life is on, and it's talking about the law of attraction, and I've always said that you can't have the law of attraction without the law of vibration. Because if you are trying to manifest something, the law of attracting it, bringing it to you, if you have such a negative, if you have such a negative mindset around it, you're actually repelling it.
Well, you're creating the negative.
Instead of being in hope, of manifesting it, yes. Because I do believe that the energy that we put out there into the universe is returned back to us. So whether we're grouchy at the clerk, maybe that means that your kids are going to be unruly when you get home. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work on that micro level, but I do know when I'm in a bad mood, I know that there's people in the store and stuff, and I don't think I express it. I feel isolated. I feel like I don't make eye contact. I don't smile. I'm all business. Get in, get out. And people don't talk to me. But when I'm in my normal state, I feel like I can't go into a store without somebody talking to me. And I was with Kayla the other day, and we were shopping, and she's like, I've never met somebody that tells you your life. She's like, we have met 2 people, and you know that they have grandchildren, that she's traveling to Italy, and you know her life history in the checkout line. And And I said, I think that they people can sense your energy.
You're curious. I think also being curious about somebody else. Because you can go to someone and just start telling them, downloading, what would you do? I'm having a problem with my sister. What would you do? Blah, 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 blah. Or you could say anything, but you can also be curious and listen.
Yes.
You can ask someone how they're doing. And I joked on the radio show that I was behind someone in line and I was in a rush, and the woman asked the other woman, the cashier asked the person who was checking out, how's your day? And she's like, and they started having this forthright 45-minute felt like conversation. And I thought, can you feel my energy behind you that I'm rushing? So
my energy is pushing you out the door.
My energy is telling you to wrap it up.
I'm pinching your lips. Shh. 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 Stop it. Psst.
Scott. Yeah, so I've been not reading very much. So I will tell everybody that I had said on this radio show that I was looking for a book that had some smuttiness to it.
Yes.
So I wanted a plot and some good sex and then continue on with the plot. I didn't want the yearning romance novel type.
Right.
And everyone had told me about this book, Court of Thorns, and they were talking about sex between fairies.
Oh.
And I thought, Tinkerbell? It's not going to do it for me. I don't want thin thigh. I'm one of the ladies who wasn't attracted to thin-thighed men. I don't want my thighs bigger than yours.
No.
John's
or football
thighs are
legs, not runner legs.
Right. Because I don't want to feel bigger than you as a woman. I don't want to feel like that if I leapt on you, you'd fall over.
Yes.
I wanted to climb on you. I wanted to have that. And Sexy Spots meets that. He's always like, what are you trying to do? You trying to wrestle me? I'm like, no, I'm trying to climb you. But so everyone told me about this book, and I had this Tinkerbell idea in my head, and I finally read it. And I go, oh, it's Faeryes or whatever the spelling of it is. And it's creatures that can turn into animals as well. So, this dude's a lion. And I'm like, oh, well, I can totally get behind that. So I read the book, and I learned that it reads like a young adult. So it was intended for young adults.
Mm.
And not a very complicated plot. The woman is the hero of the story, which I like, and all of this other stuff. And then I read that it was being banned as a young adult book. And young adult is 13. And I remember when I was 13 searching out sex in books. And the sex scene was good enough that a 13-year-old can read it. There was nothing deviant or weird about it. And that don't take it out of young adult. They're looking at whatever they're looking at online. They're seeing I saw a commercial for diarrhea tablets. What are diarrhea tablets? Maybe it's not diarrhea tablets.
No,
maybe the drink.
Clog you up.
Yeah. And it had
It's a plug.
a snowman in a hot tub with two women on it. One woman on each side. So you're advocating a diarrhea threesome, but a girl can't read about her first sexual encounter at 16 in a book. And stop it.
Yeah.
You know what? That needs to go back to young adult.
Yeah.
Yes, if we want to read it, just like sometimes adults read Twilight.
Yes.
Because it was the Romeo and Juliet story. This is a little bit
Divergent series that was and Hunger Games. Those were all movies that they were actually books that were
young adult.
Yeah, young adult books. So I don't know.
So I want to say stop protecting your children that much. Read the book. It's not that bad. And children need to learn about sex somewhere, and they're learning about it online with really weird stuff. I was listening to a podcast. I found a new podcast called Giggly Squad.
Oh, yes, that was funny.
So I watched their 30-second clips, and I liked them enough. So I said I'm going to go listen to one of their podcasts, and anyone can listen to it, and they're talking about very deep dive sex stuff. And it's like, this is what our children are exposed to. Don't worry about the book where their imaginations come in.
Right.
Worry about, what we're all listening to.
Yes.
I mean, it's 10-something, 10:31. You're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen every Thursday from 10 to noon on Facebook and YouTube. But there is a proper, there is almost like a coming of age. And I think reading about sex in books is part of that. So I think stop the ban, stop putting it in children's library, let them all giggle and this isn't a terrible book.
Right.
This isn't a deviant book.
Well, but the thing is, we're humans, and as kids, we have curiosity, and it's starting to, we're getting all these hormones and emotions and feelings in our body, and to be told not to talk about it, it's going to happen. So my philosophy growing up was, I'd rather educate my kids so that they can be prepared instead of feeling like they're doing something. When you take the no-no out of something, it changes. It's like the whole world opens up when you take the no-no out of it, because it's the minute somebody tells me that I can't do something,
I want to do it.
Well, guess what? I'm going to go around you. I'm just going to find a different way, because we do need to explore. We get into this thing that, no, do as you're told. You know, you go to school, listen to the news, and everything it's the truth. It's the gospel, and you should listen. No, we need to teach exploration. And wouldn't you rather them...
Especially if it's a healthy exploration and it's
But
not
wouldn't
weird
you
and
rather
deviant.
them read it in a young adult book where it's talking about where there
There's
actually
no
is...
details,
Well,
right?
but where there's
not really good details.
But sometimes some of the sexiest poses are not just all the naked flesh. It's the hint or the suggestion of it.
Yes, the anticipation of it too.
But also when the wording of it, some of the young adult books, it's actually sex. It's not about just sex. It's actually about connection with people. And we're the ones who've butchered sex. We've,
Porn has butchered sex.
well, made it for sale. You made it for sale. You do it for, well, not only selling skin, but you're also selling lingerie. You're selling an image. You're the perfume, makeup, clothes. All of these things are all going to selling sex. What they're really doing is selling sexuality. But then we sell it and we see it, and then they're like, no, put that back. Don't do that. So all these inquisitive minds are going to go to porn and, research what they can find on the internet. Wouldn't you rather them see it for, hey, here's a different view. Here's a healthy view. Because how many kids are we raising that have
that porn is their only thing for
that unhealthy views of sex? They don't know what it means, and nobody sits down and talks to them about it, and it's all taboo. No, it's how we push the human race forward.
So I will tell you, we were in some frat party, I guess, in college, and I had seen some weird. They had it like on their TV. They had porn up, and I walked in the room, and I was like, I don't even know what that is, but if that's sex, I'm not doing it.
You're like, it looks painful.
So I think that there's the norm, right? And we all have to make babies somehow.
Right.
This is the norm. This is that. And then you get on one side, which is more, you should wait until you're older because the consequences that go with sex, everything from pregnancy to venereal disease is a real thing. And it affects you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So there is a healthy
even
conversation
cervical
about
cancer and
HPV,
Yep.
cervical cancer. And I think we lay all of these burdens on the female because the female is stuck with the consequence of a child, and we don't educate boys enough about how you may not be latched because it's not physically happening within you to have a baby when you're 16, but you now have an obligation and a responsibility, and your life is totally different too. Because even if you're not a part of that baby's life, because sometimes that happens too, you have this kid out there. You have half of you out there somewhere. So to have that whole conversation, and yes, so there's a lot of reasons why you should wait until you're older and you have some kind of establishment. And again, accidents happen.
But the thing too is you're not emotionally prepared. Even though you think you are at 16, 15, 16, 17, as and you're in a relationship and you want to have sex with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and you're just not emotionally prepared because we don't know what we don't know. We have not gone through these experiences. And what a great experience to have a resource. Like, I know that I'm not gonna. My thought was, I'm not gonna be able to stop my kids. I know
What
how.
was your sex talk with your kids?
Well, first of all, we got books. He got a book, and Chris, they went out to lunch, and they read the book, and he's like, "Is there anything you do?" And so
So you just had a conversation and you brought a resource with you.
yes, and with her, I bought a book resource, and I just said, "Hey, we can go through this together. You want to read it?" But it also talks about, or do you want to read it on your own? But I've also cultivated a relationship that it was. Okay to communicate. It's okay to say uncomfortable things. Like, even though I might not know, I just kind of played it off. Like, even when they're exploring, toddlers and, they're learning the names of their anatomy, and you don't play it all, just you don't play it off. And, there's a realization where, oh, she looks different than me, or he looks different than I do. And what's that? And you just explain it you just explain it like you're describing how you're going to build a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they're like, oh, okay, we're different, that's cool, and they just keep moving on. And I mean,
How is it explained to you from your mother or father?
This
Different
conversation.
generation.
Judy Bloom, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. And actually, it was handed down through my sister, and my sister said, just read the last chapter.
That's all you need to know.
But then I had all these questions, and I didn't feel comfortable, because we grew up. I don't know if it was more of our environment or my parents.
It was a different time. It was a different generation.
Yeah, again, and you didn't talk about it. And growing up in a Southern
And it was
Baptist,
don't do it.
yes, you're going to go to hell if you have sex. No, I'd rather teach my kids,
So did your father? I want to interrupt you. Did your father talk to you about sex at all, or just your sister?
No, my dad, no, I'm 50 years old, and my dad has never talked to me about sex.
My dad talked to me about sex twice, and both was like, "Ew, please don't talk to me about this."
Why are you doing this
My
to me?
mother, my mother makes me watch Dr. Ruth, which was a television program
Oh, yes.
where a sex therapist who was in her 40s, 50s, or 60s, but when you're 15, you're like, why am I hearing this woman with a German accent to talk about all of this stuff? And with my mother in the room, I was like, ew, this is so horrible.
Yes.
I don't want, can I not, if I promise not to do it, can we just stop this whole conversation? Can I stop watching this? But my mother makes me watch Dr. Ruth, and my father tells me, do you know what boys want to do? And I'm like, I have an idea. I have an idea. And he says, they will tell you whatever it is that you want to hear to get you to do that. So that ruined me for the rest of my life on, you have beautiful eyes. Yeah, my father said you were going to say that.
Yeah. Daddy told me you were going to say that.
Daddy told me. And then when right before I get married, my father tells me, you're going to have sex with your husband. I'm like, ew. All right. Again, with the ew comment. I don't want to talk to you about this. Let me read it in a book.
Earmuffs, earmuffs, earmuffs.
But it was a different time, too. I mean, we
Yes.
didn't talk about, we had was it Dr. Phil? Who was on before Oprah? Phil Donahue.
Oh, yes.
And that was the first time we talked about anything, and we went on national television and started talking about things so that stuff wouldn't be stigmatized to even talk about it.
Yes. It still is. And I'm...
Well, now we talk about everything.
and
anywhere.
I was telling you when we
We're
went
talking about sex on this show.
Right. Until we're not. They
Robyn's
unplug us.
Robyn's like, I'm rolling my eyes. We're not going to talk about it in 5 more minutes.
No. I mean, I'm all for it until they, until the FCC shuts us down. I'm
We're
like,
not saying any swears.
no, it's not. But people don't want to hear. And instead of like just turning it off or turning and going a different way, they're like, no, I have got to impress upon you. I've got to go and call and complain. I've got to do this instead of like, okay, that's not my cup of tea. So,
But I do think when I heard this, and I did like the Piggly Squad. They were fun girls. But they also reminded me, and I'll talk about this for a second. Where were you in the country when Valley Girls was a thing? Were you up here or were you down south? Do you remember Valley
Virginia.
Girls? You were Virginia?
oh, yes.
Did
Is that 80s, right?
That was 80s.
Yes.
Did it hit you in your socioeconomic group where did the girls want to start talking like Valley Girls?
Oh,
did
yeah,
that
we did.
impact you? Okay.
Yes. Did you?
I tried, but I thought I sounded silly.
Yeah, I don't think
didn't
it
have-
stuck around very long.
Yeah, it
though.
didn't stick around for us either. But when we wanted to make fun of something, we talked like a Valley Girl.
Yes.
So talking like a valley girl is when the inflection at the sentence goes up. Even though it's not a question, and I'm probably not doing, I probably butchered that, but the inflection goes up, your vowels change,
Yes.
everything becomes all up and like,
Yes.
all up and like, or you be like.
So, and everything was just matter of factly.
Yes.
Prissy, with a little prissy.
Everything was a little prissy. And I thought, what a small, weird, white microcosm of a time period. Again, because I was thinking about when this book got banned from, the young adults section. I thought, well, that's just silly. You can market it in both. If adult women like to read it because we don't have good smut in our books,
Right.
we'll buy it, but we know and it's good for. I think most of the time the moms were reading it to see what their kids were reading it if they could. I think that's how it kind of even got into adults, because I did that with Twilight. I had a pseudo niece. She was a family friend, but I always called her my niece, and she wanted to read Twilight. I'm like, I'm going to read it first. And it's like, yeah, that's just Romeo and Juliet. And the Court of Thorns is just Beauty and the Beast. Just has that element, if you're going to compare it to something, it's a modern day version.
Yeah.
But when I was thinking about that, and then I started thinking about the Ruth, what was my childhood like in the Ruth, and then I thought, oh, Valley Girls kind of popped up, and the Piggly Squad. One of them to me was like, oh, that's almost reminiscent of something, and I couldn't think of what it was, and it was the Valley Girl talk.
Yes.
It was. I guess it was based on Southern California, San Fernando Valley in the 80s, and these girls who were very materialistic and had a very specific cadence. Surfer dudes didn't quite meet it. We're now going to have to Google it.
I know. I was looking up Valley Girl slang. To be all like. To be like,
and
whatever.
I think up and like is one of the ones. So it says
and
English.
I'm totally down for that.
Yes, and I did pick up totally. Totally was part of my vocabulary for a long time. Because sometimes I would just answer you as totally. So if you told me something and I agreed with you, I would say totally.
I guess I am still Valley because I use whatever a lot, and as if.
But it did have an element of
Totally.
airheaded.
Yes.
Superficial and airheaded.
I think about Legally Blonde is kind of a good one.
Yes.
Isn't that when she goes to law school?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good Valley. That's a good interpretation.
And what was
of
the
Valley.
one with Alicia Silverstone?
Oh, gosh.
Now that we're talking movies, Alicia Silverstone, and she drives her Jeep into a set of parked cars, and she goes, "My bad."
Oh, my bad. Oops.
She drives off.
Oopsie.
My bad.
No, so actually I wanted to circle back. The way I actually approached my kids is when we started talking about sex. I came from a place, it's what a man and a woman do when they love each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it came from a place of love. And it is about creating life, but it's connecting with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a way of becoming one. And I don't remember the exact phrase, but I started it out saying, it is something, it's natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural progression, but it's also done with love. And I felt like that was the most important thing to impress upon them at a young age. It's like, because they're getting ready to walk into a world where, hey, I have all these feelings in my body, and like, what just happened? This, beautiful girl just walked by, and like, I got tingly. Like, what's that about? But knowing that this is how your body works, and if you come from a biology standpoint and how you're, a natural process. Again, trying to take the no-no out of it and be like, what? No, because I don't know. Actually, I should go back and ask my mom, like, why didn't we talk about things like that?
Because they didn't want you to do it, but we didn't talk about a lot of things. We didn't talk about a lot of things. Everything was kind of secretive, I feel.
Everything. Well, so we were talking the other day.
There was a divorce in my family. We stopped talking about like why this person didn't come to our house. Where's so-and-so?
Right.
Shh, don't talk about that.
He who should not be named.
She should not be named.
Right. you cover that up and you just pretend that it's not there. And I'm like,
I was
that's
like,
just so.
she's gonna cut my hair. I don't care what's going on with you guys, but I like her and she's cutting my hair.
She's still gonna be my friend.
And that was a big thing about making the decision to keep in touch with someone who, but I really didn't even know what was going on. Of why can't we? And then you know, there's the divorce, and then there's but the divorce was still even secretive.
Again, because it's taboo. It's, it's a label. It's a stigma. And oh my gosh, I remember being as a kid, somebody's came in and said that their parents were getting a divorce, and we're like, oh gosh, it's kind of like, you don't want to get near them because that, what does that mean? And then, I remember being fearful of if you heard your parents fight, like, are you guys going to get a divorce? Like, because you don't have any understanding of what it means and not having that communication. And it would be interesting to see and go back and have a conversation. Because now I tell my mom everything, and she's super cool with it too. So I don't think that it was even on their radar to say, hey, I need to prepare
I think they were
this
probably.
child.
I think there was a generation where everyone was getting pregnant and getting married because they got pregnant.
Yes.
And no one talked about that.
Yes.
No one talked about, we didn't have good birth control. We were in love. Quotey finger.
What did they say the other day? They're in the family way.
Yes, they're in the family way. That is a way. That is a phrase. So I think there was a generation where don't do it. It happened to me. It could happen to you.
Yes.
Don't do it. So I think every generation comes from where they are, and they want the opposite for the next generation. And then that generation comes from where they are, and then they want the opposite. And I think that's why we flop back and forth between really liberal children and really conservative children, and really liberal children and really conservative children. Because my mother was that 60s anti-government, free love, drugs. Now, my mother wasn't a free love person, but all of that freedom and all of that had no boundaries. So then I think I grew up very, very conservative. Like, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm not going to have any part of that. And then I became a really conservative kid.
I think because
and I think my generation did because of the free love.
I think I do, and I think because we have a tendency to go the opposite because we don't understand it. Nobody will break it down and explain it to us.
You don't want to do exactly what your parents do anyways. So whatever your parents are doing, you're not going to do it.
Right,
if your parents are doing drugs and whatever, I'm not doing that. It
Well,
doesn't look fun. Well, from this side, it doesn't look fun.
Right.
You may be having a good time, but we're not.
Right. Like, oh, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well, so we were talking about the other day. We had company over, and just about how you perceive things is differently. And, Chris always goes back and says, growing up, we only had 3 channels. And I remember when we got cable and we weren't allowed to watch HBO. And so immediately that was like...
when your parents aren't home, you're watching HBO.
So do you remember the little tiny HBO flyer that would come in the mail? It was like the little tiny magazine. We would get that thing and flip through it, and we'd look for all the R. It would PG or the R, and we're like, oh my God. We even just felt bad, like we were doing something naughty, looking through the thumbnail pictures of the movies. And to this day, I remember the house that we lived in. It was the steps go up, you open the front door, the steps go up along that wall, and the living room is off to the right. Well, so there's a foyer, and then you can see into the living room. We used to sneak downstairs, or think we were sneaking downstairs, and look through the banister because you could see a direct line to the TV. And my parents were watching Blue Lagoon, and we had seen Blue Lagoon on the label. And I think to this day, it was just the woman and the guy in the water kissing her like face to face. And we thought like, oh my gosh, that's sex.
Yeah, we were all tingly.
Because you
watching it from the other room through the living room.
Yes, and you're like, what is happening?
I always wondered why they allowed young children like that to be naked.
But I thought that was porn for me. Like growing up in that age, like I was like, porn. I should go back and watch it now.
And
I don't know
like,
if I've
they're
ever
not 18.
seen it.
So here you are talking, everyone's talking about sex. You've got to be an adult. It's like, well, these two obviously aren't adult, and you're filming it.
Right.
So I remember at the time thinking, you people don't know what you're talking about. So hypocritical.
But what our kids are exposed to
today is 700 times that.
Oh yeah, that would probably be G-rated nowadays compared to what they're exposed to. And I'm like, okay, I can't control my kids, and I think that's where a lot of mistake is. We try to control people.
Mm.
And so knowing that I cannot control them,
But if you educate them so that they can make their own decisions,
right. But how can I influence them to make the right choice?
the one you want them to make,
Right. I'm just going to control you from the back door.
you're just not going to know it.
Right.
Whatever.
I'm going to give you 3 choices.
Whatever. Whatever.
Whatever.
As
Totally.
if your parents are going to control you, as if
Right.
you're going to be half
Hold
Valley
my
Girl
beer,
for the day.
mama. Watch me. I just, yeah. When you talked about, you know, duty, responsibility, and obligation, I'm like, that's a good topic to talk about one day. Duty versus obligation.
All right, let's talk a little bit about it now. What are do they, which word makes you feel good and which word makes you cringe?
Obligation makes you cringe. And I feel like duty is something that makes me want to stand up.
You're called to.
Yeah.
Duty's calling you.
Well, but
Obligation
what,
is
like
given
you just
to you.
said, that being pregnant, getting a girl pregnant, you know, we as a woman that's carrying the baby have a sense of duty to care for it. It's because it's happening
Mhm.
for 9 months inside of us. Whereas, you know, now the act is over and we can go on our way. Some guys see that as an obligation. It's like, well, now I feel obligated to take care of this kid.
You are
Instead of-
obligated to take care of that kid.
Well, you have a duty.
You have a duty. That's true.
And I feel
That's
like,
true.
you know, people say, you know, people don't pick up trash on the side of the road. It's, you know, because they feel, you know, well, I'm not obligated to do that. I don't do this. No, you have a duty. You have a duty to your neighborhood. You have a duty to your environment. You know, we have a duty to our community. We have a duty to our family. We have a duty to our employees. Everybody around us, we all have a duty. And
Yes.
we all chalk it up as an obligation. See, obligation feels like it's a dread, like it's something that somebody's forcing me to do. And duty to me is actually ownership.
And it's almost coming from within. You're being called from within versus being placed from the outside. Maybe.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a trash thrower outer, so I won't throw trash out of my vehicle, which is one of the bones sexy spouse is always picking with me. If you have all this trash in your car, I'm like, yeah, because I'm going to put it all together. I'm going to take it in the house and put it in a bag and
Right.
contain it because I don't like trash out in the street. I remember the first time I grew up in Boston.
It's so freaking lazy,
And
man.
we
Come
used-
on.
We used to have barrels. The city would come and pick them up, but you didn't have to put your trash in a bag to put in a barrel. So the wind would blow it over, and then
Oh,
trash would be
jeez.
throwing through the neighborhood, and then no one would want to. It was just awful. And I remember going to Disney World, and I walked through Disney World, and I said to my parents, "There is no trash here."
Right.
And I learned, and it fascinated me so much at 14 years old that I said to the hotel people, there was no trash in my hotel either. I said, "Why? There's no trash. What do you do with your trash?" And they had these sections of sidewalk that you could pop up from below, and they would pick up trash that fell. Not because you never saw people walking
Yeah.
with like a broom sweep.
Right.
And I thought this is the most magical, most beautiful place on earth that doesn't have trash. Trash is in its container. Trash has its place.
Yeah, I mean, when we were in, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, there's no trash. And one of the other things,
But I think that's the mark of a beautiful civilization.
it is, but because everybody says I have a duty, you know, I think I think you're disgusting and lazy if you're going to just throw something out the window. I mean, you're not driving. If you're driving, you're going to be going to a destination. So I went for a walk on our road, and we're rural where we live, literally all the way. It's probably half a mile up the hill. There is vodka bottles. There's Mike's Hard Lemonade. There's like these little tiny nips. Like, okay, I'm going to walk tomorrow. I'm going to walk up that hill and I'm going to bring a trash bag. I don't know if it's kids partying or they don't want to get caught, but it's almost all liquor. And I'm like, dude, drinking and driving, drinking and driving, drinking and driving. It's all I see on this road. If just a cop just could sit right up there at the top of it, you can bust all of them or you're not. But to me, I feel like it's sloppy. It's lazy and it's disgusting.
It says you don't care about yourself or the people around you.
Right.
Is what I think it says.
Right.
And we went to Grand Cayman in the area in front of the hotel, perfect, spotless. And we walked all the way to the other end, and it was filled with trash. And I remember people saying, they hate the tourists. And I thought, well, they look like they hate themselves.
Mm.
If you won't, you're the one who lives here. If you're throwing trash where you live, Sexy Spouse was managing a building, and he would buy ice cream treats, and all the kids would come and they would play, and then they'd come into the office for the ice cream treats. And they all knew they had to throw not only the wrapper, but also the wooden stick in the trash. That was part of the thing. And the first time, someone comes, rips and throws the trash on the floor, he says, hey, pick that up. Throw that in the trash. No one's giving you a present to throw on the ground. But parents aren't. That comes from a parental thing.
Yeah.
Because you do what. And then some my parents throw everything in the trash. I'm going to throw mine on the floor because my parents, oppose my parents. I'm throwing trash on the floor.
So I've changed. I don't even throw gum out of my window anymore, just because somebody had said to me that when you throw gum out and it gets hot in the summer, birds don't know and their beaks get stuck to the pavement. And so I'm like, every time I see gum on the street, that's all I think about. A bird's beak is going to get stuck. And it's going to get smushed. I know it's morbid and gross, but...
Well, I stopped throwing, because I would throw compostable stuff. Like if I ate an apple, I would throw that out the window. And then I learned that mice go and eat that. Birds, like owls and hawks, see it. And then they fly down, and because it's so close to the highway, they get hit by cars. So I stopped throwing apples out of the window.
I was going to say, I've
So
thrown
there's a
apple
reason.
peels and banana peels, but I try to chuck it so it's way off into the side. But then I feel so self-conscious. Like if I knew somebody was behind me, I try to wait to not somebody's behind me. But I'm like, it's going to rot. It's actually going to go back. Huge pet peeve. I walk. Just about everywhere I walk, there's people that have the disposable poop bags, or the bags. I don't even know if they're disposable. The little plastic bags with, dog turds in it, all knotted up, and they're laying on the side of the road. Just let your dog poop on the side of the road. It will decompose, and it will make that soil nutrient rich instead of just rotting in the bag.
Stay tuned. We'll be back after the top of the hour. You're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.live.
Have you tried to quit drinking before, and much to your surprise and dismay, you couldn't? Have you tried therapy, meetings, and treatment programs, but still can't seem to stay stopped? Or maybe you live in fear that you'll lose your job, your home, or your family, and much more if you don't get this figured out, and soon. Well, there is hope. My name is Bill Nielsen, and I'm the founder of Nascent 24 Recovery and Life Coaching. And I struggled for over a decade. Yup, 10 years, trying to get it right. I lost jobs, 5 6-figure jobs in fact, homes, friends, relationships. I thought I'd never get off the merry-go-round or the roller coaster, but I did. And I've developed a proven proprietary process that works. Why does it work? Because it addresses the root cause and not the symptoms. No more Band-Aids on bullet wounds. It's a 12-week journey that will transform your entire life, not just the drinking thing. I work one-on-one with every single client, and your privacy and anonymity are paramount. The great part is that you don't have to leave your home, your job, or your family. Text me the word recovery to 203-241-1266. That's 203-241-1266. Or visit my website, nascent24.com, NASCENT24.com. There is a solution. Take the first step You won't regret it.
USA News, I'm Ryan Daniels. The Federal Reserve is deciding to keep interest rates stable for now. Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
They haven't really changed the overall story, which is that of inflation moving down gradually on a sometimes bumpy road toward 2%. I don't think that story has changed.
Nevertheless, the central bank has hinted at 3 upcoming cuts sometime this year. These would mark the first decreases since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 began an aggressive series of rate hikes. House Speaker Mike Johnson had a long discussion with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Wednesday. USA's John Schaefer with those details.
The Louisiana Republican reaffirmed unwavering support for Israel and expressed significant disagreement with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's recent critique of the Prime Minister.
We think it is not only foolhardy, it's dangerous for him to be trying to suggest how Israel should run its domestic affairs in the midst of their conflict. So you'll see the House Republicans continue to stand forward and reiterate our support for Israel at this very critical time.
According to the State Department, efforts are underway to evacuate Americans stranded in Haiti by helicopter. This development coincides with a surge in gang violence within Haiti. The State Department's reported nearly 1,000 Americans currently in the country. Helicopters are anticipated to conduct multiple trips from Port-au-Prince to the Dominican Republic for evacuations. A federal gambling probe has resulted in charges against a man linked to Major League Baseball superstar Shohei Ohtani. The LA Times reports Ohtani's interpreter is the man charged in the case. He was fired Wednesday for allegedly stealing millions of dollars and placing bets through an illegal bookie who was already under investigation by the feds. Ohtani, who plays for the Los Angeles Dodgers, was with the team in South Korea when the news broke Wednesday. This is USA News.
I'd like to introduce you to our new sponsor, Get the Tea. Get the Tea carries all natural, non-GMO organic teas and supplements made in the USA. Get the Tea's ingredients are the purest available. My favorite is Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a gentle daily cleanse containing 12 herbs that, when combined, really keep things moving. I drink it every day, and my energy has never been better. I'm feeling great. Life Change Tea comes in 3 delicious flavors: natural, peppermint, and pomegranate. It's an easy and delicious way to keep your digestion on track. And for those on the go, try D365. D365 is Life Change Tea in a capsule. Drink the tea or take D365 capsules and keep your digestion running smoothly. Go to getthetea.com and enter discount code USA to get 10% off any size order. That's getthetea.com, discount code USA for 10% off your order.
Alltrix Primary Care, Nashua. They are a dedicated group of board-certified nurse practitioners, NPs, striving to make a difference in healthcare. They promise to make every effort to provide you with the best possible care and focus on you as an individual. As NPs, they are licensed to assess, diagnose, treat medical conditions, and prescribe medications. At Alltrix, they welcome new patients and accept most commercial insurance plans and Medicare. For those without insurance, consider Alltrix Direct, which provides all of your primary care for a small, affordable membership fee. No co-pays, no fee-for-service payments, and no third-party billing. Alltrix Primary Care provides unhurried, highly personalized health care for you and your family. Visit alltrixpc.com/Nashua. That's www.alltrixpc.com/Nashua. Alltrix Primary Care, changing the future of primary care for you and your family.
Are you or your loved ones in need of compassionate care in the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Heaven Sent Home Care. Heaven Sent knows the importance of personalized care tailored to your unique needs. Whether it is assistance with daily activities, medication management, or specialized medical care, our compassionate caregivers are ready to provide the highest quality of in-home care. The services provided by Heaven Sent Home Care extend beyond physical care. They also offer companionship, ensuring that you or your loved ones have someone someone to share stories, laughters, and meaningful moments with. Experience the peace of mind that comes with knowing your loved ones are in capable hands. Or visit us online at heavensenthomecarellc.com to schedule a consultation and learn more about the comprehensive range of services provided. Heaven Sent Home Care, where care and compassion come together.
Are you craving a delicious home-cooked breakfast or lunch? Look no further than Cookie's Diner, Hudson's favorite dining spot. But it's not just about the food at Cookie's Diner. Their friendly staff provides top-notch service, making you feel like part of the diner family. Cookie's Diner, conveniently located at 222 Central Street in Hudson. They're open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. and Sunday from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. Call-ahead orders are always welcome via DoorDash or by calling 603-880-3424. Cookie's Diner, where great food and fantastic service come together.
Come try your luck at the Lucky Moose Casino and Tavern. Your favorite casino gaming machines await you, including Ultimate Firelink, Buffalo, and Wheel of Fortune. Visit the Lucky Moose, exit 6 off the Everett Turnpike, or online at theluckymoosecasino.com. Open daily at 9 a.m., breakfast 9 to noon, and our delicious menu available for the rest of the day. Burgers, chicken tenders, pizza, and more.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. We now have Facebook and YouTube up permanently. So if you miss an episode, you can tune in on YouTube if you miss us on Thursdays, and you can listen and watch us there. Welcome back to the second hour. And the referenced movie with Alicia Silverstone that I was trying to talk about was Clueless.
Clueless.
And I did have to Google
Yes.
it. I didn't remember.
Need some prompting. That was old stuff.
Yeah, that's advanced maternal age brain.
Hey, I have a fun fact for you.
Yes.
I always do. My kids are always roll their eyes when I'm like, hey, hashtag fun fact. Do you know that we gave dinosaurs their sound?
No.
Think about it. How else would we know what they sound like?
That's true. How would we know what they sound like?
We gave it to them.
So
we are responsible for the sounds of dinosaurs.
Interesting.
A T-Rex actually might meow like a kitten. We don't know.
It's really interesting because now I'm fascinated for a second about what we think we know with sound.
Right. Well, it also just goes to show what we think we don't know. I mean, there's a lot we don't know.
Or that we've gotten wrong.
Yes, but we always cling to our righteousness, gotta be right. I don't. I just put stuff out there like, hey, there's this. What do you think of that?
And I do love the phrase that I say all the time, which is, I am so smart except when I am so dumb.
Yes.
Because no matter how smart you are, you're really dumb.
Well, I always tell my kids I'm an idiot savant. I'm like, hey, I'm not as dumb as I look.
What is one of your irrational fears?
Frogs.
Frogs. Yeah. Mine is hotel fires.
Oh, well, that's not really irrational. You know, when we were...
No, this is how irrational it is. So I sleep naked in my house. But when I go to a hotel, I won't sleep naked. And John's
really?
like, what's going on? I'm like, well, what if there's a fire? And he's like, so what if there's a fire? And I'm like, I'm going to have to get my clothing and find my way out of a hotel. I am the person who counts how many seats I am off an airplane. I am the person who looks at exits in hotels, and I memorize as I'm going.
Yes.
There's 3 doors because you're not going to see in a fire. So I will say to myself, you'll touch 3 door handles before you'll on the left. Or I do that as part
that's
of my
good.
feeling I'm prepared.
I count steps and I kind of figure out where my. But
How
I
many
do it
seats
so,
you touch on the airplane? I would have to touch 3 seats. I would have to touch 8 seats because it's not only the closest exit to you. Yes, that closest exit to me is 3 behind me, but sometimes the fire starts behind and you have to go forward. So knowing how far you have to go forward too.
True.
And I will tell you, when we were in Fort Lauderdale, we kept not being able to really close our door. And someone had shoved paper towels into the door jamb where the door connects so that
it won't lock.
It won't lock. And John found it because he's like, why isn't this closing properly? And he found it. And I thought, that's why I always shove chairs underneath hotel doors. I am one of those. And some of those fears are rational when you read nothing but true crime from 16 to 35.
Yeah, that's true.
You're gonna try to prepare yourself for all the things that happened to someone once.
My mom always brings slippers. She doesn't like the garbage. She doesn't want her feet to touch the floor in the hotel.
Yeah, but I think frogs is a good irrational fear because you have no reason to be afraid of frogs. They don't attack people.
I do, and I literally feel like I would probably pass out if one ever touched my body. So when they're at the pool, and I always said to Chris, you have to go check the pool every morning before I go. Because I do like to get up in the morning. Once I have my coffee and the sun gets out a little bit, then I like to go get in the pool and swim. But I cannot get in the pool. I cannot be in the shallow end if I see that these 2 little beady eyes are in the drain thing in the skimmer at the top of it, because they like to just sit right there on the edge. And I'm like, nope, can't do it. I can't even get on the diving board with the, we have like a 20-foot pole. Nope, if that thing jumps at me.
Yeah, that is an irrational fear. I'm trying to think if I have a fear like that.
And I dissected them. And I know it's trauma from my childhood. Well, so we used to live in a small neighborhood, and it was 3 girls, and it's like 8 boys. And we were tomboys growing up. We had a lake behind our house, and we would have this old kiddie pool, and we would drag it down to the lake, out down in the little cove. We'd take the kiddie pool down there, and we would get the frog eggs, because you could see the frogs mating in the pool, in the water. And we would get the frogs, and it's all slimy, and they all stick together. It's like tapioca or those little, what do you call, boba balls or whatever. Gelatin.
Now I'm never going to eat that again.
I know. Boba teas.
Boba tea is out.
Fish eggs.
Boba tea is out.
But we would watch them hatch in the kiddie pool. Mm-hmm. And then when they were little, pollywogs, and when they were little, we'd take them out, and then it was got to the boys would put them, you'd find them in your mailbox, you'd find them on your, you'd find them on your bed, during the summer, and just, you'd find them in the glove compartment, just random places. And I just started not liking them.
You didn't like the surprise of a frog where a frog was not supposed to be.
No. And so now when I'm digging in the dirt, and I like to dig without my gloves on. So I'm always like, I'll go through and take the shovel or do something through there.
So you're not afraid of snakes, but you're afraid of frogs.
Correct. And I probably would be. Well, I don't see many snakes. That's why. And so if I do see them, I'm like, okay. And I just go in a different direction. Like, I don't really want that thing, but you can it will go on. And I don't feel like they can jump. I know they can strike fast.
So you feel like the jumping is erratic, and you don't know what the jumping is going to do. What direction they can go.
Surprised.
Yeah.
That's funny. When we go in a hotel, Chris is like, we got to do princess prep, because I don't like any light. So we do a towel below the door underneath the crack to get rid of that. And I will figure out how to, what's the light from the microwave or the TV. I've got to cover those up, because I'm like, it's like day glow in here. Like, I don't want to be able to read while I'm trying to go to bed. I'm like,
So how do you go to the bathroom without stubbing your feet on everything?
I don't know. Memory.
Okay.
Or a lot of times I'll hit my phone and hit the light so that I can kind of just see.
Okay.
And then once I get my hand on the wall, and I always sleep the one closest to the bathroom. Chris is like, can't we sleep on the other side? I'm nope.
Okay, this is childhood trauma, because you thought, when you said the boys started teasing you with frogs, I thought, well, this is why Friday the 13th was so traumatizing because we watched Friday the 13th with my friend who had 4 older brothers, and all they did was going around the house going, ch-ch-ch-ch.
Yes.
And then so we would scream and run just from the sound. And
Yes.
I thought Jaws traumatized an entire generation from sharks.
Yes.
And if you do hear that music, I would swim in the ocean and I would hear that music in my head. And I'd be like, all right, it's time to get out of the water.
Yeah. Done. Well, I had convinced everybody in North Carolina that was in the ocean with us one day. It was a shark. My mom had sent an article. So she used to live down in Wilmington, and she would send articles because our son loves animals. And so when there was a shark, a great white in the area, and like every year there was a great white sighting, and she was right down from the pier. And so a lot of times they will tell you like shark was caught today and here's the measurements, and we're all standing. And I don't like dirty water.
Oh,
like
I don't
the
like dirty
Atlantic
water.
is. So I mean, I'll swim in the Caribbean. I will wade in the Atlantic Ocean, and so usually kind of knees. Or Chris will hold my hand and we'll go out, or I'll piggyback. And I'm like, I don't really want to touch. We're standing there and the waves are cresting, and next thing I know, I see a dorsal fin, and I'm like, shark! And I spread my arms out, and everybody runs. It's a dolphin, but it was really close. But I was like,
They have the slightly rounded
yes.
dorsal.
But you kind of see it where those, I always
Yeah.
call them the Mary Poppin waves, the ones
Yeah.
that they never crest. They just kind of
Yep.
swell. And it just happened. I just saw it and I peeked. And then the next wave it came, you could actually see when it was breaking. You could see the dolphin swimming through the wave. Would have been a great National Geographic shot. But
What I always love about the articles when someone is attacked by a shark is they said, I didn't think there were sharks in these waters.
Right.
And what I always think is interesting is where would you think sharks are if not these waters? The ocean?
did you think it was freshwater?
The lake? I could see if you get attacked by a shark in the lake. Well, I wasn't expecting it in these waters. Or the pool. All of a sudden, you're in a pool and you get attacked by a shark. Well, I wasn't expecting. But the ocean, you should expect a shark attack in the ocean. That's where you should expect it. Is there.
Right.
And so when people would say not the kite surfer is surfing, he gets attacked by a shark. Well, I wasn't expecting it to be. I remember reading this one. He was from France and he came and he swam and he got attacked by a shark, and he's like, well, not these waters. And it's like, dude, how old are you that you don't think that there's sharks in the water? And then I think of the Saturday Night Live skit where the shark would go around in people's apartment buildings and ring the doorbell, and they would say, who is it? And they would say, telegram. And the shark would eat them.
Telegram.
That's,
yes.
Ma'am, I'm just a dolphin. And then they would, no, you're that pesky shark. No, ma'am, I'm a dolphin. And then he would eat them. I could see you being like, oh, I was in my apartment building. I got attacked by a shark. Was not expecting that.
Right.
When you're in the ocean, sharks are there.
Right.
Sharks are there. So if you're not afraid, be afraid now.
Absolutely. I didn't think it was going to get me. That's funny. No, go back to Germany. We're talking about people, duty, obligation.
Yes.
And throwing out trash.
Pet peeve.
Well, do you know, like, when somebody sees you, like, when you're getting ready to cross traffic, and this has happened in 4 countries that we've been in, 4 different countries other than America.
They don't stop.
They don't stop.
They don't.
No, they, like... When you see somebody, like literally when we were in Germany, if your toes get close to the curb, everybody stops. Even bicycles, they stop like on a dime for you to cross. Even if it doesn't say, even if it has your walking, don't walk sign, if somebody sees you coming, they stop. And I'm like, boy, you think you're going to get hit. You're playing Frogger out here because people don't, it's an inconvenient and it's rude. It's just a mindset.
Well, it's a cultural norm. They're also going 140 miles an hour in Germany. They're not able to stop on a dime just because you decided to cross the street. Wait.
Well, they do. That's what I'm telling you.
Stop?
We were in Munich, and there is a huge rotary right there where it's...
They have good brakes because they go fast.
Yes, I mean, we're like right in the heart of Munich, and when you go to cross, people stop. Even bicycles stop for you.
Really?
So we're sitting out on the curve, and we're right in a
And I
rotary.
would imagine they wouldn't because they're going so fast.
Yes, we're right off of the Autobahn. and people are stopping for you. So the kids, they were their 14th birthday, and they wanted to go to this Italian restaurant. They saw the pizza. So we're sitting out on the curve. There is a car. So we're watching the traffic going around, and this car comes, and a bike cuts out in front of the car, and the car actually hits the biker. The biker kind of just rolled onto the hood. They pull over. Traffic is still going. There's no police. The guy jumps out of the car, helps the guy up with his bike, and they talked. They shook hands, and then they left. And our 14-year-old son, he was like, you would never see that happen.
No.
You would never, ever see that happen where we live. And I was like, wow.
Right, it's a hit and run if you're not giving someone your insurance.
Yes.
Here's my insurance, here's my license, here's my ID, get the
Oh
police.
my God, but you harmed me, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna, it wasn't like, oh shit, oh shoot. That was just,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but we were just sitting there walking around you, to your neighborhood, to the people around you, and I'm like, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
If we all go forward and having a sense of duty to be kind, show love, take care of our plot of land, and take care of our, love one another, help your neighbor out, smile.
I think of our weather, and I always think of when meteorologists say, oh, it's going to be cold, make sure you check on your neighbors. Imagine that you have to tell people that on television because they just don't have that as part of their community.
George says lower mic number 1.
Yep.
Volume.
Okay.
And turn up your headphones a tad.
Okay. We're being
live feedback.
Yeah, we're being monitored remotely, which is kind of fun.
Yes. At least we know we have one listener.
Yeah. And I didn't put up on Facebook, so if people were telling us something on the side, I don't have that up because I'm not controlling it.
I didn't get any notices either.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, let's have a sense of duty.
What do you wish people would take more of a duty of today?
Ooh, I don't know. I think their own joy. I think their own sense of peace. I think we're always looking for external factors to make us, and I think even just talking about trash, littering, like how you do anything's how you do everything, and if that is how you're showing up for life, and you can show, you can toss your trash out the window, I don't really think that I don't think you care a lot about yourself. If you don't care about your environment, you don't care about your surroundings, I don't think you care about you very much. And I think because what I'm learning going down this path of personal development, I love being curious, and I love seeing, like, how can I live my best experience and taking care of it. So if you have a sense of duty or a sense of ownership in outside of yourself, like what you do, I think what I'm coming down to is how we operate. Everything comes from within. Our relationships, how we do our business, our mindset, everything radiates outward. So if we're going to have a negative experience, we're going to have it comes from inside.
So Chris asked me something about a meeting I went to, and he said, well, what did you think? And I said, I don't know, it's kind of combative. I said, but maybe that was me. And he's like, oh, I don't know, I doubt that. But I always look to, am I having this experience because it's me? Am I part of why this is what I'm reacting to? Because if you aren't the reason, sometimes I'm bringing the energy. Especially when you think of really close relationships, your relationships with your parents, your relationships with your spouse, your relationship with your kids, with your friends. Sometimes it's we're bringing the energy and the person's reacting to our energy.
I 100%.
Or
agree.
I'm reacting to their energy. I was in a good mood till you showed up.
Yes.
I was having such a good day, and then you came.
Right. It'll be my dark cloud.
Yeah, and came.
Dude, can't you see I'm sunshine and whiskey, man? I don't need no dark clouds.
I'm sunny and 70. I'm San Diego. But I was thinking, I think sometimes my mood is generated by weather.
Yes.
If it's cloudy and yucky out, I could be cloudy and yucky inside. And then I'm wondering, am I bringing that somewhere? Okay,
Yeah,
be a
I,
little
I do.
sunshine.
I think what would be your answer?
For what do I think we need more of?
Yeah.
I wish everyone took the duty to develop a community that was in real life over online life. So I wish that we could come together, not come together. I wish we could identify who and what we wanted to be around in real life and started, and let online life be the sprinkling of something on top of, and not the meat and potatoes. I want online to be the seasoning, and I want the meal to be real.
Yes. And I think it's
just
true.
like a flavoring. So I can go online and find fashion blogs I like, and I could go online and giggle with the girls on this place, and I could go listen to some great books, but that's the smattering of the additional.
Yes.
It's not the meat and potatoes of my life.
It's a side dish, not the main course.
Because I feel...
Because I think a lot of times people show up differently online than they do.
Oh, 100%.
And they want to... But then you ask, because there's a lot of negativity on social media.
And there's not as much negativity in real life.
Online. And it's like, is that where you feel like you can just release your demons? Is that who you really are deep inside? The thing I think I would like the most for people...
I think sarcasm doesn't... First of all, I think sarcasm doesn't read right.
That is true.
So I know I'm a sarcastic person. But I used to be really sarcastic. That was where my negativity came out. It was in my sarcasm. And I love good sarcasm.
Me too.
But sarcasm doesn't always read right. I mean, if you're not used to sarcasm and someone throws sarcasm at you and you take that literally and you're all confused, and then it loses its translation when someone has to explain to you, when I said nice parking job, it's because your parking job was terrible.
Right.
When I say good parking and you say okay, no, not okay. You're diagonal to the parking space. This is parallel parking.
You're ruining the joke, man.
You're ruining the joke that I have to explain it to you.
I know. You're sucking the good out of it. You're sucking the fun out.
And I'm wondering, just because I think I am the worst, no one is worse at texting than I am. I am the worst texter. And I feel like I am.
You mean by autocorrecting? By not autocorrecting? Or like, what do you mean by worst?
Because I can't see without my glasses. I'm not putting my glasses on. I'm typing all the wrong words. Then I'm using Google Speak, and Google Speak doesn't understand my accent. And it puts all the wrong words in, and they're all chopped and weird. And then I don't correct it, and I send it off, and people are like, what? Question mark? Huh? You know? And then I'm like, ugh. So, and in my head, I'm saying a whole bunch of things, and only 50% of it go out. So that when you're confused by my text and I'm thinking, but I said whatever, and then I go reread my texts and it does not say that.
I know, and I'm like, what is that?
And I have a 2-hour radio show. I can't be held to 160 characters. I can't be, this is just not the right forum for me. I'm a phone person. I'm in real life person. I can't be digested.
I'm tangible.
Yeah, I can't be digested into the small paragraphical thing. And maybe because I'm not even trying anymore. It's like, this is a terrible mode of communication. This is a terrible, if I'm 5 minutes late, if I can't do that today, that's a good text spot. But when we need actual communication, I think it's bad communication through text. So when I think if I'm a somewhat decent communicator in when I need to communicate, but I'm so terrible here, are we all terrible communicators online? Are we just starting a fight? Are we just taking a dump on someone's parade? Do you know? And I think that happens, and there's no consequence. Bill Burr has a wonderful joke that, in real life, if you said that to someone, they'd smack your protein shake out of your hand, because
that is true.
You used to be afraid of. I grew up in the generation someone would punch you in the face.
Yeah, don't put something out there unless you are prepared to follow it up. And now I think just people use negativity and use social media as an outlet to just dump all your bad feelings instead of being like, why does this? And I think one of the beautiful things for me, that I experienced is because I used to be really opinionated, and I feel like, well, if I thought it and I think about it and I agree with it, then it must be the law. It must be right. I agree. I can get on that side of the political fence.
Put this as policy in Washington.
Yes, but I'm like, I agree with that fundamentally. I think one of the most freeing things for me is, what is my opinion? How do I feel about this? And then going forward, having an open mindset. Just being open to learn and seeing and truly learning why somebody else feels the way they feel. Because the truth of the matter is, if we're so polarized on one side or the other, having the awareness to say, hey, wait a minute, they feel that passionately about it because the only way they know about it is because of their experiences. We all are a product of our experiences.
What is an opinion you changed recently?
Politics. I mean, I didn't change, but I don't debate. I don't waste my time debating and being.
But was your opinion before that you should debate them?
Well, that my party's right.
Oh.
That my party's right. And actually, one of the things that I feel like I've changed the most about me that I've let go of is my need to be right, to be surrender, and to see if there's a different. I don't have to argue. I don't have to argue. I don't have to debate. So it's also helping me to not attach to other people's words, being able to process. So it's actually opened my mind and being like, well, if we're all on a journey, I don't have the right to tell somebody else that their journey is wrong or how they're going about doing it. Now, I mean, if it infringes upon me in any way, then yes, I might say something. But for the most part, just let people live their life, man. Just bring more joy. I think that's one of the things that I feel like I've focused on more is once I've realized that things are happening for me, and I know it sounds really selfish, but your life is happening for you, and more that we learn to self-love, I think the better our experience on this earth becomes, because we start letting go of all that stuff. You can't change. You can only change you and how you see the world, instead of forcing the bagger at the checkout to see your opinion, or a stranger on social media that you want to stalk and leave negative reviews for. And I love the idea of community. And in our town Facebook group, there's so much negativity, and I think they use it for, I don't know if to be funny, to get engagement, but it's toxic. It's toxic. We have this girl that is in our group. She just put a post out. She was fired up for a meeting. She went and put a post out in this group and said, hey, is there anybody that's looking for, a cleanse and reorganization of your space and your areas? And, just trying to give value to these people. There's 80 some comments of negativity and sarcasm. And I'm like, you have this young 20-year-old entrepreneur
who's so excited about her thing
and trying to bless these people and give value. And I'm like, I'm actually ashamed to be a part of this group, because how somebody comes up and says, hey, how can I be in service to you? And you shut them down.
You're like, I have great organization skills. If you need me to clean your closet or your pantry, I'm available as a resource.
But even like
I should find out her information. I need more.
But even changing
organization.
your colors in your house or your energy and just being open to it. Like this girl's like, "Hey, I want to bless you," and it was all these comments about, how do you know? Because your age, how do you know what you're doing? And it's ugly and it's petty, and you see all these grown adults. And it's elementary school, and I'm like, man, I am ashamed. I am ashamed that this is what's going on. Somebody says, hey, I would like to bless you and love on you, and I feel like I have this
gift. I'm great at organization.
Yes, and I want to share it with you guys.
And that is a gift because Sexy Spouse had to do something for work, and he was just dreading it. And finally I said to him, you live in this house, you don't even know where the ketchup goes in the fridge. There's some things you don't do. And the job they've assigned you is not your job. They gave it to you. But you're not going to own it because you don't need to be doing that. That's the last thing you need to be doing. Of all the people who are charged with this,
right?
Receptionist, and receptionist is not a bad word. I'm not using this as a bad word. Receptionists, secretaries, assistants, they have an organizational component. Now, I have a sexy spouse and he's very organized for his stuff, but to organize other people in a verbal way, that's not his thing.
Right.
And he's the last person who should be.
It's not a skill set.
Nor does he want to. He doesn't display that at work. He doesn't want to be doing that in his next job.
Right.
He has way different skill sets. But in this trade organization, they've assigned him this job. Everyone gets assigned, and he takes a different job every year. And so he's like, I've got this job this year. And it's like, can you make someone, my first thing was, can you make someone do it? Can't you make your assistant do it? And he's like, no. But this is a season he's going to have to do something he's not really good at. He's going to dread it the entire time. But that organization piece, that's a real thing that I know when I was when I worked in corporate America, we would test to make sure you had these skills. Because you couldn't be an admin if you didn't have these skills, because you could not take the coordination of an office and all these different things and boil them down so that they could be managed and coordinated without these set skills. I feel bad. Tell that girl, I'll find that girl.
Yeah, she's
Share her with me.
super, super sweet. Like, yeah, I just was like, wow, that I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed.
I used to work in customer service, and I remember there was this woman, and everyone hated her, and she got rotated out through people because people would have her for a couple of months and be like, I'm going to quit. Yeah. If this person's my client, I'm quitting. So they end up coming to me. Of course, she comes to me, and I end up having her for the rest of the time there that I'm working there, and at that position. And everyone's like, how can you tolerate that? And I'm like, all I say is, thank God I'm only dealing with her in my work life. Thank God I get to hang up the phone and she is not part of my world, because she is so unhappy. She's an unhappy person. And when I see everyone spewing in this comment section, I think, how unhappy are you that you have to ruin someone else's day?
Yeah.
All the time. That's like your mode of and that's why I want, for my wish, let's make that. And that's why this whole week I wasn't on social media practically at all.
I haven't been on social media either.
And the week before, when I time my social media on an app, I was down 25% every day.
Wow.
And I was like, but you know what? And I have to do this because the last week and this week are the very busiest weeks probably for me all year, because I'm closing down one segment of my business and I have to transition all of that so it's done. And I have a deadline, and I keep telling myself, wow, when I just want to put it off till the next day, I just say, but finishing is fulfilling.
Yes.
Finishing is fulfilling.
Yes.
And so that's how I'm getting through. But I can't be on social media too, because it's just kind of a waste while I'm trying to do something else. But I have my favorite meme over the little time I've been on was, you think you can hurt my feelings? I held a flashlight for my dad.
Yes.
And I sent it to my spouse saying, or my husband, because I could be the smartest person in the world. I don't know how to hold a flashlight. But and he said to me, everyone's gotten yelled at holding a flashlight. Why do we hold flashlights then? We should just all have headlamps. Right. And then the other thing I said too was, and was this a thing in the South? I grew up in a city. I grew up in Somerville. There's there's one driveway, one parking space. Everyone is jockeying for parking. In the winter, you are not allowed to park on one side of the street so they can plow. So now twice the amount of cars are filling half the amount of spaces. And then people would put out a chair, like they shoveled that space, so now it's theirs.
Right. Is that saving your spot?
Saving your spot. Well, when we would drive around, my parents would be like, oh, there's a spot that wasn't there when I was looking for it. Stand there until I go get the car and come back.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
Yes.
The amount of swearing people did at small children, and I would cry because although I'm frightened of you with your Oldsmobile Delta 88 bearing down on my 7-year-old self, I was way more afraid of my parent who was getting the car.
Right.
I'm not giving up the space. You're going to have to run me over.
Right. Sorry. I have done that too, but I've still done it. And it's been I'm like, hey, let me get out and I'll stand in the parking lot. Because,
you're taking your life into your own hands.
A big truck, man. And it's hard. And I'm telling you, he is a world-class backer-upper.
Every truck owner is a world-class backer-upper. We can go up and down. I can drive the highway backwards. It's fine.
But he backs in with one hand. He's he needs one of those knobs, like the big tractor trailers, the knob on the thing. He just rolls that in. And, Market Basket has a tight space. And especially if you find one up at the front. And see, I park at the end because I don't mind the walk unless it's really, really cold. But he will squeeze into a space nah, I wouldn't have done that. When I'm driving the truck, I look for a one that I can just pull and go all the way through so I don't have to back up. I don't want to back that thing up.
So when I think of people being offended all the time, I think you should hold more flashlights, more flashlight holding for you. And that will weed you out of it. You'll just cry holding the flashlight. And then one day you won't cry holding the flashlight. You'll swear at them in your head. And then one day you'll be like, you know what? If you don't want me to hold your flashlight, I won't.
Or you're the one that's holding or you're holding the flashlight and being like, man, these people are idiots. They're just angry. They're just an angry human.
Block them out. 50% of the yelling doesn't even hit your brain.
Dude, I wrote on we have a chalkboard in the kitchen, and I wrote on the board, don't forget to set your intention for the day. And so I'm thinking about it and pausing, what is my intention going to be for today? Do you know if we could
have fun?
Yes.
Every day, that's what I start out with.
Fun.
I'm going to
have
joy.
I know. And Chris was talking to me last night, and he's like, I was talking to so-and-so, and this guy say, he said he was giving him a hard time about taking Sundays off. This is one of the clients that, doesn't hesitate to call it 9:30 on a Saturday because they're corporate and they think that they are
but
so
corporate
busy.
should know that it's Monday through Friday.
Well, it doesn't matter.
5.
They don't have kids. They are, multimillionaires, and they work, 80, 90 hours a week. And they'll probably never see my perspective. And here they are thinking we're less than. He's a general contractor and, he owns his own business and they're doing this and that. And you can tell by the way they talk that you seem less than them.
They're talking
and he was
at you.
He was chopping, he was kind of just making fun of, he was making fun of him about taking Sundays off. And, finally Chris was starting to get upset, made a comment, and he just said something about family.
Faith and family Sundays.
And I'm like, from my side of the fence, I think you're a loser. I do. Money, I don't think that if you believe in a higher power and if you believe in, why do we build this life? Do we build this life so that is it all about money?
So to me, that person's less smart than they think because they think everything is both urgent and important.
Yes.
And if everything you do is both urgent and important, you don't understand the idea of urgency or importance.
Well, but I don't think that we're put on this earth to amass millions of dollars. I mean, and that's great if that's what you want to do. But I look at them, so they look at us and see wow, they're not motivated. They're not doing whatever, whatever. You're judging me, but yet at the same time, I think you're a loser. I think that you are a miserable human being. You suck the fun out of everything.
You walk in the room, and the room just goes devoid.
It's always about business. And if that's where you find your fulfillment and your pleasure, but I think there's so much more to this world.
Or couldn't you have fun in business?
Yeah, I don't think so for these people. I know you know who I'm talking about.
I
but,
know. I know.
I'm like, please just let me get a hold of these people. I just want to have one interaction.
Robyn needs to have a come to Jesus with
I
these
do.
people.
And he's like, she would probably chew you up and spit you out. I'm like, no, I think I could get her. And I'm like, hey, I have the perfect name that you need to call him.
Mm-hmm.
And which I think is funny is, yeah, we won't do that on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be an after dark show. But I honestly don't believe in, and it's okay. And I don't have to. It's okay that he doesn't believe it. I know for me that he is missing joy.
I have fun. Something funny popped into my head. I had this time when this client called, texted, emailed, called, and it wasn't an urgent or important thing, and it was an after-hour thing. And when they were like, oh, my God, I've been trying to get in touch with you, my first reaction was like, I was having sex. I wasn't picking up the phone.
Right.
Like, how horrified would you be if you were telling someone, I'm, in a business setting?
You just picked up the phone. Dude, you just ruined my big O. I was like 20 seconds out.
And there's that part of me that's like, that's how the mature person that has a filter at all times. Because there are times when you're being some way that I want to show you how ridiculous your way is being.
Yes.
But I don't.
See,
And
that is my battle, because I used to charge in and be like, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know my way was better.
And I think, but I did do the, what is this and what is this and what is this? I'm frying chicken cutlets at 7. My family's coming over at Saturday night.
Yeah.
I don't have any answers to those questions.
I don't care
I'm frying
about
chicken cutlets.
I don't care about corporates, and I don't care about some exotic stone from Italy. We're going to have fun. We're going to dance. We're going to ski. We're going to laugh. And to me, that is, and we're going to eat good food.
And we're going to have a good time.
Yes.
Make memories.
And to me, I think that's what community, and I think that's what our life is about, is, connecting and finding joy and finding peace and,
I have something funny to tell you. So one of my friends decided to have a St. Patty's Day breakfast. So she plans it a month in advance. So I put it on the calendar. And I'm always a social butterfly. I always like to go out and do things. I like to hang out with people. And it came up and I was like, oh, there's a part of me that, not that I didn't want to go and see the people, but making plans a month before and I wasn't in the mood to do them in that moment.
Yeah.
Like I wished it was a different day.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, that's silly. That's not you. That's not who I am, right? So I go and I'm having a great time. And I'm like, thank God I went. Thank God I didn't cancel at the last minute.
Yeah.
And there was a woman there and she was telling me that she's an introvert. So it's a big deal for her to even be there because it was the first time I met her because a lot of the other ladies I knew.
Mm.
And I said, oh, so this is a big deal for you? And she said, yeah. So we're talking and she was wonderful and I hope to see her again. And as we were wrapping up and the checks are dropped, she's in the middle of, 8 women. And she starts going, okay, I need to go over there. And I'm like, she's like Cinderella. Her shoe is gone. She needs out. She has done her introvert has been an extrovert for the maximum amount of time allowed. And we started talking. She said, I am kind of at that moment, I'm starting to get antsy. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to all get up and do our thing. But I thought, how many times do we want people to be who we are in social situations? Maybe we could have more community if we could let the introverts leave without saying goodbye when they've had enough.
Be.
Yeah. Leave without, just go like a fart in the wind, right? Where did so-and-so go? They've had enough.
Oh, that old fart just left.
They've had their 3 hours of maximum human time allotment, and now they're gone. If they go in another room to have a cigarette or do something, don't go in there. What are you doing? You're not part of the party.
Get back in here.
Maybe we have to allow our community to be whoever they are in that community. We have the extrovert, I'm the host party. I love having people around and all of that. But when she said that, I said, I wonder if I'm becoming a little introvert in my old age, that I almost wanted to cancel, even though I didn't want to cancel, just because there was something. I couldn't express it. But I'm sure an introvert knows what I'm talking about. An introvert probably makes plans and then cancels because they're an introvert and they can't leave the house. We were talking about COVID.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think I think COVID has affected us nationwide to such a level that I don't think we've still recovered. The amount of people who say they're still lonely, the amount of people who said they, I talked to one gentleman who said, I'm actually an alcoholic. Before I used to only drink in a social setting outside my house, and then I started drinking in my house with no social setting. Now I drink all the time. And we had a conversation about just about that, you know.
Well, we're not. I wholeheartedly agree that we are pack animals. We are not meant to be alone, and so.
But in that, we still have an extroversion component and an introvert component where some of us get filled up from other people, and some of us get drained from other people.
Yes,
we need. So to allow, maybe we would get more back into that community, because I think that introverts have stayed introverts even though we're back out in the world. Where before they used to balance their extrovert components because they had to deal in society, and then society shut down, and now society has opened back up. But the introverts are like, but I'm comfy and cozy.
I also think that part of COVID, what stopped, I think, is people stopped putting. Well, I think it happened before COVID. I think people stopped putting their best foot forward. Just for an.
Ooh, let's talk about that for a second.
Not really even caring about how you show up. I mean, I look at Walmart. Just go sit in the parking lot for 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, wow.
So let's talk about that for a second. I used to do mood boards. And I call them mood boards, but they were almost a vision board. It always happened with renovating buildings. What's the feeling? So interior designers do it a lot. People who create magazines or books, you've got what does the cover look like? What's the feel? It's always the feel is in there too. It's not just what the look is. Even though you are visualizing a look, the look is based on how I want you to feel.
Yes. Right.
So I started
doing emotion.
So I started doing that. That's part of why I'm trying to change my clothes. Because now I've had the 10 years of the same mood.
Yes. Yeah.
So I started to do mood boards. And I was thinking, if you wanted to, I'm going to do them. I'll do a Lisa mood board for the month.
Actually, that's a great idea.
And I'm going to put it on Instagram, and I'll put 10 pictures, and that's my mood. And I started doing one, so I'll show it to you, and then we'll post it. I was wondering if you wanted to do it too.
Of course I do.
I touch clothing, flowers, food, a couple of photographs that make me feel something. So we'll do that. But I thought, what if we went just as with intention, and we said, what's my vibe for the day? How am I going to show up? And even if you're the person who's like, well, I have my great yoga pants, and I always wear my yoga pants to pick up my kids from school. Okay. But is that really the vibe you're going for? And maybe it is. Maybe it's comfy. You know, maybe you have this wonderful thing where you pick up your kids, you go and grab an ice cream, you go to the park. So maybe that is part of your vibe for the day.
Yeah.
But at some point, the vibes change. And if you track it on some mechanism, whether it's social media, which maybe that would be an interesting place to do it, could you see what your vibe looked like? January's vibe, February's vibe, March's vibe.
That would be cool if we could do something on. That could be cool if we did something on our Lisa and Robyn Facebook page, and you just set your. But that's kind of like what I was talking about. You set your intention, and that's funny you talk about clothes, because this morning I'm like, okay, I thought we were gonna have a wrapper on, so I'm like, I want to do a little. I'm feeling like a little bit rock and roll. I had so the outfit in my head when I went to bed last night. I have this really pretty silk camisole like tank top.
And we don't have heat in our building this week or next.
Yes.
So we have to dress.
We're currently sitting at 52 degrees.
So the silky talk wasn't going to be today.
We're like little snow bunnies. So I was thinking my over the knee boots, and I was thinking a black. So I have a pair of the black boots, and then I have a really pair of like dark navy jeans. that it's like a cornflower blue with like a little bit of lilac, just a really soft, subtle, and then a black jacket. So just that one pop in just a slight variation in the color on the jeans. And I was like, oh, it's kind of city. Like in my mind, it's like, it was kind of city. And, then George texted us and he's like, it's dress warm and it's 52 degrees. And I was like, well, probably won't wear that. So I got stuck this morning like, all right, I already picked out my energy and my vibe. Then I tried on my white spiky little white boots, ankle boots, and I was like, oh, that would be cute with some slouchy jeans and a big sweater. And I was like, no, I'll save that for tomorrow because that's tomorrow's feel. But I was picking out. But I also it helps me to stay in that energy. So it's part of like setting your intention. I want everybody in my family to look at that and being like, oh, what intention am I going to set today? It's not for me to tell you.
Yeah,
but I want you to set your intention.
You're curating your life.
Yes.
Just like you curate an art collection, what do I want to say with all of this? You curate life. What am I going to eat? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to do it with? What am I going to wear? How am I going to show up? What am I going to say? So I love this. I cleaned out everything this weekend. I cleaned out my office. I gave away a ton of books, which is so difficult for me because I think that books are ideas and entertainment and all of this stuff, and I'm possessing them, or they're possessing me. And to have them, there's an element of I want to have this book, even though I've read it.
Yes.
And then I thought, okay, you need to, how can you make space? Because we talked about space and accumulating a few weeks ago. How can you make space if there's no space to have? There's no space for anything. I think we've got 2 minutes left.
Well, and I also think, but the truth of the matter is, who are you? Who are you living for?
Yeah, who are you living your life
and
for?
I was trying to find the quote that I had written down, or the little key phrase. Now it went totally out of my head. We allow what we're willing to tolerate is basically kind of what it says. And being able to have
you
that
get
word,
what you tolerate, yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
get
a really
what you
good one.
tolerate. So if you're having a bad day, it's because you're allowing yourself to accept these on some level, whether it's, the energy from your boss, whether it's from, stressed about money or your relationship. We are so focused on blaming outwardly. All of these circumstances make me feel this way. No, once you realize that you are the author of your own story, that we are the only ones that are in control of our life, it's so powerful and so...
And then try saying, instead of I have to clean the house, I have to do this, I have to go to work. I choose to.
Or I get to.
I get to.
I get to.
And choose to curate today, the rest of today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, until we see you next week. Lisa and Robyn on the mic. We are here every Thursday, 10 to noon. You can watch us on WSMN.live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. You can listen on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. Until we see you next week.
Have a great night.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.live.
USA News Update. House Speaker Mike Johnson had a long discussion with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Louisiana Republican reaffirming unwavering support for Israel and expressed significant disagreement with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's recent critique of the Prime Minister. The Federal Reserve has decided to keep interest rates stable for now. Nevertheless, the central bank has hinted at 3 upcoming cuts sometime this year. These cuts would mark the first decrease since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. With another possible government shutdown looming, lawmakers have put together a $1.2 trillion government funding package with over 1,000 pages of legislative text. They're working to get that passed ahead of Friday's deadline. Corey Myers, USA News.
I'd like to introduce you to our new sponsor, Get the Tea. Get the Tea carries all natural, non-GMO organic teas and supplements made in the USA. Get the Tea's ingredients are the purest available. My favorite is Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a gentle daily cleanse containing 12 herbs that, when combined, really keep things moving. I drink it every day, and my energy has never been better. I'm feeling great. Life Change Tea comes in 3 delicious flavors: natural, peppermint, and pomegranate. It's an easy and delicious way to keep your digestion on track. And for those on the go, try D365. D365 is Life Change Tea in a capsule. Drink the tea or take D365 capsules and keep your digestion running smoothly. Go to getthetea.com and enter discount code USA to get 10% off any size order. That's